Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. And now the Friday Crime Report. Charleston, South Carolina, Tuesday, September 16th, 2025.
We have victims, 9 of them. But we also have victims on the other side. There are victims on this young man's side of the family. Nobody would have ever thrown them into the whirlwind of events that they have been thrown into. We must find it in our heart at some point in time, not only to help those that are victims, but to also help his family as well.
The Charleston church massacre was a horrifying event, but unfortunately it was all too typical for America. From the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing that claimed the lives of 4 little black girls to the Charleston church massacre, America has always had a kinky fascination with attacking black churches. After Dylann Roof committed that act of mass murder, his fascination with the Confederate flag made it the focus of moral people across the country to finally go ahead and strike a substantive blow to the mentality of white supremacy. When Dylann Roof appeared in court for his arraignment, the judge who presided over the bail hearing was James Gosnell. And like most of them good old boys, he was all bad. He had already been reprimanded in the past for using the N-word in open court when speaking to a black defendant. He made local headlines for that outburst, but nothing was done beyond a slap on the wrist. But Gosnell really decided to show his behind during the Dylann Roof trial when the cameras were rolling. He was trying to be a hero to his fellow white nationalists. That's where his performative extremism in court came from. Only the black media called this scumbag out for his anti-black racism and has continued to remind you about it anytime the Dylann Roof case comes up. Now that was all about a decade ago, but you won't be surprised to learn that James Gosnell is back in the news again.
Today, the South Carolina Supreme Court suspended Magistrate James Gosnell Jr. after his arrest this morning on federal charges related to possession of child sexual abuse material.
We learned today that federal investigators say that they found hundreds of photos, videos, and conversations involving children and infants less than a year old. The Department of Homeland Security searched Gosnell's Charleston home on September 16th. Then on the 17th, they searched his Charleston County court chambers where they seized bank records. Those bank records, they say, confirmed transactions for child sexual abuse materials.
Agents with the Department of Homeland Security investigations received a tip from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children about several financial transactions with a known distributor of child sexual abuse material in the United Kingdom. We're told payment came from an online account associated with Gosnell's known phone number, address, and email.
The now suspended judge was seen inside the federal courtroom wearing a jumpsuit and shackles around his hands.
According to that latest court filing that you just mentioned, it reads that, quote, the weight of the evidence against Gosnell is immense, overwhelming, and conclusive.
Now, is anybody actually shocked that a feckless racist who boldly defies all morals and demands sympathy for a mass murder in open court in front of the world is also a child sex predator too? Is anyone really surprised by this revelation? According to the federal complaint, during the search of Gosnell's home, the feds found a flash drive containing numerous videos and images of child sexual abuse, including depictions of prepubescent minors, infants, and toddlers engaged in sexually explicit conduct. In total, federal agents seized 14 USB drives, an iPhone, discs, VHS tapes, and numerous other electronic devices, all containing child sexual abuse materials. Federal agents say they're still combing through seized items, including 4 computers, 7 SD cards, several discs, and tapes. So basically, this reprobate had his own perverted home library of evil. But predictably, Gosnell's evil hardly stopped there. Gosnell confessed to federal agents that he possessed child sexual abuse material and communicated with like-minded individuals on Telegram. Gosnell is said to have hosted sessions with other pedophiles on web conference calls to show them tricks of the trade. He also admitted he viewed material that included little babies. Babies, mind you. But as low as this is, Gosnell's evil didn't stop there. Brian Sterling, the U.S. Attorney for the District of South Carolina, said, "To the parents of the community, our investigation has revealed that Gosnell claims to have abused very young children. If you left your child alone with Gosnell, even let him hold your child, please email the tip line which we've set up." Through a forensic search of Gosnell's electronics, investigators discovered conversations he shared with other individuals interested in pedophilia. On Telegram, Gosnell allegedly revealed that he had raped and abused children in numerous instances, according to court documents. Investigators allege the conversations revealed he sexually abused a 3-month-old while babysitting and a 5-month-old who was in his neighborhood. Additionally, investigators claimed that he sent a selfie that also included a 2-year-old child accompanied by the message, "My new buddy." He then, in conversation, claimed he sexually assaulted the girl 2 weeks prior, according to court documents. One conversation showed plans for Gosnell to travel to Florida, Ron DeSantis' Florida, with the intent to rape and torture the other pedophile's nephew's infant son, according to prosecutors. Another revealed Gosnell had previously traveled to Florida with a USB containing child sexual abuse material. He gave this USB to the other pedophile, who then mailed it back to Gosnell's Charleston address. By the way, you know another pedophile who also called Ron DeSantis' Florida home? Jeffrey Epstein. Gosnell revealed that he had raped and abused children. This is who they put on the bench in South Carolina. This is who the racist authorities in South Carolina also refused to punish. They were defending him, that's what they were doing, and is most likely because they also are engaged in the exact same behavior. This case is about far more than this reprobate having a whole video library of child porn. The U.S. Attorney is saying that Gosnell has admitted to personally sexually violating children, infants, and that if he so much as touched your child, or if you left your child alone with this creep, then you need to reach out to the feds. Appealing to the public for information. Now, this is the kind of jurisprudence that America actually needs, but doesn't exercise very often. Because we all saw how hot and bothered and the frenzy that the white media went into over R. Kelly. Meanwhile, you got this animal who is sitting here telling the feds that he rapes children, and the white media is not plastering his face wall to wall. Gee, we all know why. Following his arrest, Gosnell was suspended from the bench by the South Carolina Supreme Court, which claimed that he posed a substantial threat of serious harm to the public and the administration of justice. Clearly, for the white racist bigots on that Supreme Court, his repeated acts of open and blatant racial bias didn't qualify as a threat to the public or to justice. So we know what their idea of justice is. The Charleston County government then discontinued Gosnell's access to county facilities, devices, and accounts. It should never have come to this. He should have been removed years ago when they caught him making racial remarks in court. But of course, when you think about who these reprobates are who are also in the judicial system there, they're just as bad as he is. How many of those individuals who are covering for and protecting this creep all this time are most likely engaged in the exact same kinds of behavior? They all need to be looked at. This racist piece of trash was the one giving mass murderers sympathy from the bench. And now he's looking at possible prison himself. By the way, there's been no mention of whether the feds took him to Burger King first. But this reprobate Gosnell is from South Carolina. And you want to know who else is from South Carolina? Our old friend Negro Jim Clyburn. And in the almost 10 years since the Charleston Church Massacre, have you seen that old coon doing or saying anything to get this racist reprobate removed from the bench? He should have been the main one raising hell about this guy. Judges like Gosnell are appointed, by the way. They're not elected. But regardless, that should make it more important that he be removed long before now. He has a history of open racism in the courtroom, and that obscene display he put on at the opening of the Dylann Roof trial should have been the last straw. And had the racial roles been reversed, it would have been. But you got this old decrepit clown Clyburn in office, so of course he isn't going to say much of anything. I've been saying for the longest time that to destroy the evil of anti-black racism, we have to cut off all the heads of the Hydra. Breaking the enforcement arm, the police, is only part of the job. In the past, a number of racist prosecutors have been removed from the office, mostly by voters. But the job of dismantling the injustice system will never be complete until these judges are also punished as well, and I mean harshly. What's happening with this Gosnell creep is exactly what needs to happen across the board. There need to be investigations of all of these guys, all of them on the Supreme Court, all of these so-called prosecutors, everybody that he was sitting there having golf with. These are the kind of individuals who cover for this kind of person, and they wait until there's some sort of fluke incident out of the UK that lights them up. Then suddenly they start acting as if, oh, we're so shocked and appalled. No, they're not. They're birds of a feather, and you better believe a lot of them, if you look and check this guy's history, you'll find that a lot of these people were also right in there with them. You'll find a number of South Carolina authorities and officials were also part of this pedophile ring. These scumbags don't operate alone. They run in digital packs. We talk about people like Jeffrey Epstein all the time, but what needs to be remembered is that, as I've always told you, nothing happens in a vacuum under white supremacy. The entire reason these child abusers roam free and these judges are so eager to let these rapists like Brock Turner and Drew Clinton and countless others off the hook is because these judges are doing the exact same thing. Corruption protects corruption. These creeps couldn't remain on the loose without these racist white judges who keep ignoring the law. Black defendants get locked up without bail merely for jaywalking. This isn't the system failing. This is the system operating exactly the way it's designed. Honest judges like Olu Stevens won't play that game, so they make it a point to put people on these benches who are as crooked as the day is long. This Gosnell creep had the nerve to lecture the public that Dylan Roof's family were the real victims, and people needed to find it in their hearts to give them sympathy. Not a word about the black victims, because the bastard approved of that mass murder, and that was his way of showing the world he was on the side of the animal who killed all of those innocent black people. When he was demanding sympathy for Dylan Roof, that was actually a low-key confession on his part. Well, there won't be any sympathy for this piece of garbage. Show me someone who's an anti-black racist, and I'll show you someone who engages in all manner of degeneracy. It never fails. When it comes to evil, the anti-black racists are the lowest of the low. I suppose we should at least be relieved that he didn't decide to go and commit some act of mass murder himself, though given a long enough timeline, he probably would have tried it. There's no need for him to teach his fellow pedophiles how to be sneaky with their demonic behavior, by the way. Like Jeffrey Epstein, Brock Turner, and so many others, when you have racial immunity from law, you don't need to be careful. You can instead focus on identifying and grooming your next victim. The black grassroots have been beating the drum about this scumbag from day one, and making sure that people didn't forget about his behavior. And now, everyone knows it. There's no debating it at this point. Trash like Gosnell love the idea that they get to commit all sorts of evil behavior, and yet in the public eye they get to have their dual persona of being a quote-unquote respectable jurist, though he was only respectable to other white supremacists. But in his position, especially in a racist toilet like South Carolina, as far as he's concerned, he only cares about what his fellow white supremacists think because they're the ones protecting him from going to prison. But now everyone knows exactly what this scumbag is. What we've been saying about him for the last decade has been proven out. His reputation that he was so eager to protect is no better than the mass murderer Dylan Roof that he was so eager to identify with. Now, let's not kid ourselves here. This happens to be an old white man, and that being the case, you better believe that, especially with these prosecutors, they're already trying to figure out how to give him whatever sweetheart deal that they can. The charges are simply a way for them to do an end run around the Constitution. Go ahead and package up all of his crimes in one legal package, and then you'll make a sweetheart deal with him that covers all of them. You can't rule that out because we see it so much. This piece of garbage is already in his late 60s, so as far as they're concerned, the prosecutors are going to be saying, well, can we really give this old man a life sentence? Now, they had no problem doing that with Bill Cosby. They had no problem giving him a sentence that would have been effectively a life sentence. They had no problem with doing that to an old man as long as he's black. But of course, we understand that's exactly how this injustice system is set up. So, as with all these other cases of white privilege kicking in the courtroom, we're going to be keeping an eye on this degenerate Gosnell to see how events develop, and to see whether or not the feds decide to do for him what they tried to do for the murderers of Ahmaud Arbery. Try to do some secret backroom deal to try to go ahead and bury all of this. But in the meanwhile, he has been exposed, disgraced, and all of the people who tried to find a way to whitewash this guy's racism, they look like the collaborators in evil that they are. And as for Gosnell, just remember, when it comes to these white supremacists, especially these old ones, the most important thing to them is to somehow be able to engineer the righteous judgment of history. That's what they want. They want history to look on them favorably. Well, this is the final chapter of James Gosnell's putrid, pathetic life, and instead of him doing like so many of his predecessors and being able to slither into a grave without anybody holding him accountable, now his reputation is exactly what it's supposed to be, and he lived to see his own downfall. Now that is justice. And that's this week's Friday Crime Report. Keep your eyes open and stay on alert, because there's a lot worse criminals out there than the ones the white corporate media chooses to show you. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. BC, Carrie Dean Christian, Gregory Sanders, Kemet Azubuike, and Clifton Johnson. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.